Hello, Sage. This is Cody.
All right. New to the channel, new show. Here's what we got to basically do. Here's what's going on. And pretty much some people are probably going to come in here and say, who the heck's this guy? I have no idea what's going on here. What is this live all about? Well, we're going to go with that. So basically, my name is Sage, and I am a licensed insurance agent with LogRock, but I'm also a content creator. Let me turn that light on so everybody can see. So here's what we're going to be doing here. We're going to be doing a new show over here on LogRock. It's going to be called Sage Logistically Speaking. That'd be me. And we're going to actually talk a little bit about freight. So we're going to probably start doing this during the week. I'm going to pick some days. It'll be probably 8 to 10 in the morning. And currently I do a show Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But I'm going to start breaking off from that show and start doing some shows over here. If it starts gaining some traction over here, we will definitely do more. So just so you kind of know my background a little bit, I have a CDL. I've been an owner-operator, been a carrier, been a freight broker, been a freight broker agent. I've been a Landstar driver, agent, and local driver. So I've pretty much done it all. Kind of like the mafia. Once you get in, you can't get out. But I also do a lot of logistical training and stuff like that to try to get carriers to completely understand that it's not just trucking. Once you kind of get yourself into a business, it never ends. Like the learning never ends. You buy your truck and you jump in your truck and you're just like, okay, I'm just going to grab some freight off the load boards. No big deal. And that is, that's not always the end of it, right? So with business, you want to continue to learn over and over and over again, so that you can basically be, maybe 10% smarter than the guy next to you. So you can basically outsmart him, make more money, grow your company, and continue on from there. So the other thing I do here, I'm currently playing a video game. That usually makes a part of my stream, is some type of video game that I played during the stream. Makes it kind of interesting, brings in another aspect of things. But we do talk a lot of trucking here, so I wanted to kind of jump in and get that party started. Now, there's going to be a lot of other things going on here. So I've got some people I'm going to bring in for interviews. It's going to be a call-in show. I'm going to bring people on. They're going to be able to call in, either ask questions or, we're going to talk about different topics. And I've got some people lined up to come on the show and also, either answer questions or be a part of the call-in show also. So I've got some plans over here, but we just got to build a little bit of traction and get the party started. But again, like I said, I completely understand. If you're new and you're just, saying what's going on, it's probably early Saturday morning. So this is kind of the pilot episode, kind of a test run to see if that works. But what I did want to do is talk a little bit of trucking. So like I said, normally I do like a 2-hour show. Not sure I'll be on that long today, but we'll see how it goes. Because I just kind of wanted to run the live and start, getting out here and putting the show out here. That being said, hello, Narc. Thank you for joining in. So some of the things that I wanted to basically talk about, and we're going to talk about, one is going to be tariffs. And the reason we talk about that, doesn't matter who you decide to back as a presidential candidate, that's not the point. Understanding the policies that they put in place that do affect your business is going to be extremely important. So one of these is tariffs. This is kind of how tariffs work, and this is why you really need to know what's going on with them. I talk about this a lot on my other channel, but we're going to kind of explain it here. So tariffs is a tax that a U.S. importer pays to get their product out of customs. So when they buy something from overseas and they ship something from, let's say, China to the United States, and they bought a widget, right? They bought some type of product that they need, like this controller, right? Let's say they bought the buttons, or they bought the controllers, or they bought the plastic, basically, or the circuit board, whatever they bought. They bought the internals for this controller, and they ship it over to the United States. And let's say they're going to assemble the controller here in the United States and sell it from here. Well, when we buy the products, let's say it's in a can, it's in a container, shipped from China over to the United States, and it lands in the United States. There is now a tariff, a tax, to get that out of the port. And this is something that you basically pay U.S. Treasury, and then you get an approval, a release, and then you can finally take the can out of the port, take it to a gross dock facility, unload it, put it on the rail, or put it in a truck and ship it. Well, when the administration, whoever they might be, ends up saying, hey, we're going to go ahead and raise these tariffs, put higher tariffs on that, the person that pays that is the U.S. company that is actually the one taking it out of the U.S. port. So many people think that it's paid by the other country. It is not. It is paid by us. Eventually, those costs, if they can't be absorbed, get passed down to the consumer. Now, we're starting to see this now. We're starting to see a lot more stuff in the news in regards to that. Well, even in 2019, this is something that happened the last time the administration placed a bunch of tariffs on products and raised them. We saw a freight recession in early of 2019. So tariffs are starting to be placed on somewhere around June of 2018. We started to see more tariffs and from the administration, which caused a freight recession in early of 2019. Because tariffs, a lot of times what they do is companies will find ways to push other costs down before they pass costs on, right? One of the things that they don't want to do is just raise the price first thing, because they don't want the consumer buying less of those products, okay? So a lot of times what they do is they push the cost down, maybe to the transportation side, to the trucking side. They go to the truck drivers, or they go to the carriers, and they say, hey, we're going to reopen this for bid. We'd like for you to sharpen your pencils, and we'd like for you to basically See if you can do it for 5 cents cheaper a mile, 10 cents a mile cheaper. Something that will basically save the us some money to be able to, keep functioning with the profits that we were used to getting. Eventually, if they can't do that, they end up passing those costs on. Or they eventually buying less. They end up buying less. So when they buy less, that causes a freight recession. Freight is based on supply and demand, volumes, high volumes based on low volumes. So if there's lots of freight out there, but not a lot of trucks, the price of freight goes up. Because if there's, 100 trucks, but one load, price goes down. If there's 100 loads and one truck, my price has to go up because I'm now competing against other people that want that truck, right? So what tariffs basically do is raise the cost of the product that is coming from another country. So we start to see a drop in volumes of freight. We start to see these lower volumes. Now, there are ways to get in front of this, and a lot of logistics companies will get in front of that. As the administration turns tariffs on, turns tariffs off, turns tariffs on, turns tariffs off, you see a big push to get in front of these tariffs. And then when you see that push, there's a lot of volume coming into the port, and then it goes from the port. They're finding ways to either put it on the rail or ship it by truck to get it to warehousing. So you'll start to see a lot of push for that. That's one of the things that you're going to want to be aware of. So a lot of the companies that we insure would be box trucks, cargo vans, and tractor trailers. But if you're in the box truck cargo van aspect, there's going to be a lot more warehouse to warehouse pushing of freight. So you might start to see a little bit of a bump in your freight volumes based on the fact that we're warehousing more to try to get in front of tariffs so that, these companies can save money before tariffs hit them. Well, so far, as of right now, which is one of the reasons I wanted to do this show, is the tariffs have been lifted. Basically, maybe not lifted, but they have been deemed unconstitutional. A court basically came down and said, sorry, these tariffs are not legal, and the president of the United States can't just come in and place tariffs. He's supposed to go through Congress, and that way it's not one person just automatically putting a bunch of tariffs on because he doesn't like a country, because we had something called, no taxation without representation. Little things. Well, just recently, a court basically said, hey, these are illegal, and we're going to, you can't be putting these tariffs on. You need to lift them. Well, the issue is right now that Donald Trump is doubling down on that, so I don't know if we're going to see a lifting of the tariffs. If we see a lifting of the tariffs, or if we see any type of tariff relief, you truck drivers that are out there are definitely going to want to take advantage of this. There will be a push to get more product in as the fight ends up going to the Supreme Court. So you're going to start to see what we call a bullwhip effect. Ups and downs and ups and downs. Freight comes in, freight dies off. Freight comes in, freight dies off. And that bullwhip effect, although isn't the best thing for logistics, it is something that is occurring right now. Now, so that is one of the things that is going to be affecting freight volumes and freight pricing. And a lot of you probably see how this is affecting you because you can see the freight drops. You can see freight's not paying that great. There are spot freight. You're really going to want to be very proactive in regards to reaching out to freight brokers, reaching out and getting ahead of it. Because if you can reach out to the brokers that you've worked with or the customers that you worked with and said, hey, I'm in the area. Do you have anything going? Do you have anything moving? That will be beneficial to you, the truck driver. What you want to do is not, if they're posting a load and you got everybody calling on it, we're not in a market that benefits you, the truck driver. What benefits you, the truck driver, is to be able to call the broker and be able to get in front of before he's posting a load, or get in, basically be there when he's about to post a load, or just ask him, hey, do you have anything coming up? Remember that customer that we moved that freight for? This is, I'm one that hauled that. Are they moving any more of that freight? Do they got, anything else coming up? Anything in this area? If you got anything coming up, man, just give me a ring direct. I'm here. Let's make it happen. Well, one of the ways, truck drivers, you're going to want to do this is you're going to want to make sure you're keeping track. This is one of those times that is so important for you, the truck drivers, to be able to keep track either with some type of software of the loads that you did last week, the loads that you did last month, the loads that you did last year. You should be able to pull this up, know who you got the load from, how did it pay, what that lane was, what was the product. Keeping track of this, I know, although it takes time, it's one of those things that you should be doing to benefit your company. This is what freight brokers do. This is what businesses do. We keep analytics. And data collection is a monstrous business, and this ends up benefiting you when you can pull this information, right? So if you want to survive in these tight markets, you have to be able to do more than just, make a phone call, right? You have to run your business. So knowing that and knowing where you've gotten loads before, knowing your better brokers that you've worked with, knowing the better prices, knowing their names, knowing their cell phones, ways to reach out to them is monstrous in regards to being benefiting you. So that's something you need to be doing. Now, so as we start to see possibly relief on tariffs, that I don't know if the administration's going to, give any reprieve on that, because obviously he's saying that he won't, which I believe I have that right here. The statement from the administration is all tariffs are still in effect. Today, a high partisan appeals court incorrectly said that our tariffs should be removed, but they know that the United States of America will win in the end. These tariffs ever went away, it would be a total disaster for our country. It would make us financially weak, and we will have to be strong. The USA will no longer tolerate enormous trade deficits or unfair trade and non-trade barriers imposed by other countries, friend or foe, that undermine our manufacturing, farmers, and everyone else. If allowed to stand, this decision would literally destroy the United States of America. At the start of the Labor Day weekend, we should all remember that tariffs are the best tool to help our workers, support our companies that produce great made-in-America products for many years. Tariffs will allowed to be used against us by other uncaring and otherwise politicians. I don't know how that works. Now, with the help of the United States Supreme Court, we will use them to benefit our nation, make America rich, strong, and powerful again. Thank you for your attention in this matter. So I believe he's not going to be relinquishing any of that. And so as that happens, you're going to see a lot of freights drop down because of that. So you're going to have to, and this is basically some of the stuff that we see in some of the articles. I think I pulled a couple. Now, so in regards to freight coming from like China, let's say, and people are like, how is it, how much does it cost to move freight from China? What does it cost? What is that actual cost? Well, one of these actual costs I have on screen. So to move a container from China to the United States currently is about $1,700. To move it from China to the United States, when you put it inside a container. The price jumped up in May when we started to see the ups and downs with tariffs. When we started to push before he was going to place the tariffs back on again, we started to see a huge push. The price went up, supply and demand. So you went up to like $6,000, then it dropped down. And then there was another push where we just recently had, before we were going to put tariffs back on again, it went up to $2,000, and then it's going down. So each bullwhip effect kind of goes smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller in regards to the movement of freight. So that's pretty much what we're seeing. Now, issue is, like I said, anytime you have these tariffs on, the purpose of the tariff is to have less product shipped from China to the United States. That means freight volumes in trucking industries are going to go down, right? That's just there. Or they're going to find ways to be able to mitigate mitigate the shipment of freight, which is more usage on the rail and things like that. So what we do end up seeing is more warehouse-to-warehouse shipping, more warehouse-to-retail store shipping, because the rail is used to bring it in from, let's say, the West Coast to the Midwest, and then placed into warehousing, anywhere they have warehousing. So we'll see more of that. Or we'll see more box truck, cargo van freight moving, because of the fact that they've got to move smaller. Companies are not ordering as much, so they can start to ship smaller freight volumes. So instead of using a full truckload, they might just have 10 pallets, 8 pallets. But they got to get those 8 pallets out the door, so that basically gets them to move that. All right. Now you kind of understand the gist of tariffs. That'll probably be something we talk about. But one of the other things I want to talk about, let me make sure this is on the screen. It is on the screen. Is going to be overall markets, right? So the overall market push for some of this stuff, I'm going to kind of put on the board here. What we're looking at right here is this is kind of the national spot rate markets, right? This is something that, let me make sure you can see this. So overall markets basically is what we call a soft market. It's easy to find a truck. When it's easy to find a truck, then rates are a lot cheaper, right? Rates go down. The price to move a truck, there's a lot more trucks for a lot less loads. So when you're out there basically posting loads as a freight broker, you'll know that you can post loads for cheaper. Customers also know this, and customers want to also move it for as cheap as they can. Like, customers don't have blank checkbooks. They're not out there just saying, yes, please charge me whatever you want. They're basically saying, hey, we want to basically, save money also. So, I want to move this for market price or below, right? They'll literally say, we want to move this for market price or below. And this is the stuff this is what I need right here. Perfect. This is stuff that basically customers they'll come to our attention and they'll tell us this, and we'll have to compete against other freight brokers in regards to this. So right now we're in like a soft market. So that soft market, you're going to see lower rates. So flatbed market is basically coming up a little bit. That's definitely starting to move up. It's more of a loose market. So it's not at the bottom, but it's not at the best rate yet. Now, a lot of reasons for that happening too is you're going to see we're still doing some that type of product. We're still doing some manufacturing and building and construction, and a lot of those pushes are before any type of snowfalls, right? Obviously. Reefer markets are also coming up, and you got schools, right? So now you have schools and colleges and things like that are pushing more for to get their the freezers filled, start of school happening. So there was definitely a push for that. So you're going to see those open. So you still have restaurants and things open. You still have a little bit of tourism happening, but schools are a big portion. Also, to get whatever farmers to get whatever produce and things they can get out, they want to start getting them out, because they're coming down to the line also. Van. So van is still in the soft. It is still the worst, unfortunately, that we have out there. Again, this is a lot to do with the tariffs. A lot to do with people buying things. Like when the prices are still up for products, right? You go to the grocery store, you go to buy things. Prices are still high. People are buying less. You start to see this in the van market. All right, let me do this. I'm going to zoom in on this real quick. Hang on. Let me zoom way in here so you can see this. Okay, this is the spot average. It might be too much. National spot rates. So right now, the national spot rates for vans are down a little bit, like only about 3 cents. Flatbeds down about 4 cents to $2.49. Vans $2.03, and reefers about $2.39. Now, that's kind of the spot rates. that we're basically seeing. So understand the spot rates aren't always the spot markets, what you're seeing on the load board, okay? So spot rates aren't based on, when they're gathering this information, they're not pulling this from what's posted on the load board. Like when I, my freight brokerage that my wife does, if she posts a load on the load board, that information is not what data is measuring, okay? Because I could post something for $1 a mile and move it for $2 a mile. So most of the stuff that this is being pulled from would be factoring companies are also reporting, and they're seeing what these are moved for. TMSs, a TMS system, which is a transportation management system, which is what I create loads with. So when I go into the computer to create the load to send to you the rate con, I have a TMS system, and that allows me to put all the information in it, send it to you, and that's exactly what we're actually moving the load for. So why is this important? Well, this is important because you're going to want to at least know what some loads are moving for. Now, like I said, the load that you're bidding on might not be paying that much, and there's a lot of reasons for that. And like I said, this is where this kind of show is going to start to come in. It's going to take a little bit to get some traction, but we'll get there because we're going to answer these questions. We're going to take call-ins. We're going to bring people on. I've got a couple shippers that I could probably reach out to, where you can actually talk directly to them. But when you actually start negotiating, or you actually start calling a broker, the rate that they're going to want to move it for is always going to want to be as low as possible, right? I mean, that's your job, is to get as much money as you can. Their job is to make as much money as they can. The shipper's job is to make as much money as they can in regards to when they're selling their product. So that's what businesses do all the way down. So shippers want me to move it for as cheap as possible. I want, carriers to move it for as cheap as possible. That doesn't mean so cheap that they can't function. That means, as cheap as possible. So if $3 a mile is as cheap as you can move something, well, that might be your number. Now, it's kind of high depending on what you're moving, but that might be your number. But it's not always that. That way it's on the screen a little bit. It's not always that aspect of things. And I'll have to shrink this down. All right. This is lanes reported by Triumph. So basically 30-day average into some of these lanes. Pennsylvania to Tennessee, about $1.96. Michigan to Georgia, $2.13. Wisconsin to Dallas, $1.94. So most of these are down. And Pittsburgh to Chattanooga was basically up for trending. All right, now there's the squiggly line thing. These are basically the squiggly lines. I know. Not a lot of people are going to want to know anything about these squiggly line things, but in these charts. And this is boring stuff. Put me to sleep, why don't ya? But I want people to at least understand this, right? Every day is not going to be the same. Like I said, a lot of days we're going to have call-ins. We're going to be answering questions, things like that. But you need to know, welcome to the world of business, right? And if you don't learn this stuff and you don't understand this stuff, that could be bad. Okay? Because somebody else is learning it, and that's your competition. And you're in business now. And if you want to succeed and you wanted to continue on, this is some of the stuff you have to know. This is, like I said, when you call in to get insurance through any of our agents here, this is what we do. We do trucking, right? I work here. I'm a licensed agent. I'm not just a content creator here. We've got other agents here that are extremely knowledgeable in trucking. That's what we do. But we want you to succeed. We want you to not just, get insurance for 3 months and then next thing you know, you're out of the game, right? So that's kind of why we're doing this. That's why I'm doing this, to be able to make you guys better than the guys that don't want to learn this. And that's a big deal. All right. What happened here? Why is my... Okay. So in freight, we have what's called outbound volume, tender volume, right? So tender rejections and freight volumes. So there's a software called Sonar that's out there that basically has tapped into everybody and their brother, and maybe their brother's brother, in regards to collecting data, everything from credit cards to factoring companies to debt boards to shippers to pretty much everything in the industry. And they take all this data and they collect all it, and they basically are able to see the future, predict what's going on, right? And it's called sonar. Now, it's something you guys can get as a trucking company, as a freight broker, and a lot of freight brokerages out there have this. But we can see everything from how many containers are coming in to the ports to how many people have ordered for containers to be coming into the ports in the next month. Like everything is tapped into, they've tapped into all this. So we can literally see that the freight demand, national freight demand is lower, right? It is actually down. It's this little circle right here. These two other squiggly lines that look like, you're hooked up into a system in the hospital. Beep, beep, beep. That's basically these, right? These two other lines are higher, and that's 2023 and 2024, and the white line is 2025. And that's down. We are down from the past 2 years in regards to the amount of freight volume that's out there. We're lower, okay? That means that there's less volume out there. Now, we're going to get into different topics like, driver shortage. And, there is no driver shortage. Yes, there is a driver shortage. I believe there is a driver shortage. I don't believe there's a CDL holder shortage. I don't believe that in any way, shape, or form. But I do believe there's a driver shortage. And a lot of people are going to argue me with that, probably. Come on. Hey, how's it going, Jerome? So one of the things that driver shortage, the reason I believe that is because you handle that two different ways. So I believe there's a shortage of the amount of people who want to drive the truck. Drivers that want to drive. Good drivers that want to drive. Because a CDL holder is not a driver. I have a CDL. I'm not driving. I know lots of people that have CDLs who are not driving. And what would it take for me to come back to driving? Well, that's a different way to fix that problem. So we have a freight. Freight is definitely down. I don't want to pivot too much, but freight is definitely down, right? One of the other things, what is this one here? This one is outbound tender rejections. Okay, outbound tender rejections. This is another topic you're going to hear about on the channel, is basically understanding that when we do contracted freight and we put our freight out there to be moved, carriers bid on it and they say, hey, I can move 100 loads. I'll move 100 of those loads. It might be, 10 a week. It might be whatever it is. Well, when a carrier falls off that load, that's a tender rejection. They're kicking it back saying, I can't do this one for whatever reason. Truck breaks down, driver gets sick, whatever reason. And that gets put out there as a tender rejection. Well, when you start this, tender rejections is a measurement of basically volume also. If there's less tender rejections and they're being picked up quickly, well, that means that there's way more trucks. So tender rejections are up, basically, is because capacity is basically falling off. We have a lot of carriers that are going bankrupt. We have a lot of trucks that are falling out of here. So capacity is starting to drop, meaning the amount of trucks that are industry are starting to basically drop. And that's another measurement of the industry. The other measurement of the future, and this is how we predict the future here in trucking. If you're in trucking and you want me to predict your future, you want me to tell you your future, is it going to get better? Is there, is the freight volumes going to go up? That's this one right here. This is ocean. This is how much ocean containers are coming in. And this line right here, obviously we're also looking at 23, 24. Which color is which? 24 is green, 23 is the reddish color. All right. You definitely saw the ups and downs, the bullwhip effect. So there was obviously an up, then there was a down, then there was an up, then there was a down, and then we mentioned tariffs are coming. Tariffs are coming in April, right? Liberation Day. So you saw a huge push to get as much freight in as possible before those tariffs. And that's this white line breaking all the other lines. And then what happens is we filled our coffers. There's a lot of warehouses that are maxing out, and the freight drops down. So the prediction of the future is, as we leave tariffs on, we're not gonna be pushing to get much out because we've already started to order. Christmas stuff has already been ordered. That's a done thing. It's already on its way or it's already here. But this huge push here, if tariffs aren't, if they maintain tariffs, and there's no break or there's no, turn them on, turn them off, turn them on, turn them off situation again, this is probably going to keep falling. And eventually probably bottom out to where right here, which is normally, this right here is normally where we have holidays and we've already ordered our holiday stuff. That's going to be an issue for truck drivers. It's going to be an issue because we're not seeing the volumes come in because we've just front-loaded everything. We've created a bullwhip effect, and that bullwhip effect is what we saw under COVID. People on, off, high volumes, fill the ports, then there was nothing, and then high volumes, fill the ports, and it took us forever to get that stuff out. So we saw really high rates when that happened. The issue is that as long as there's a tax to U.S. importers when they buy products, they're going to buy less products. They can't afford them, right? And that's an issue. And also trucking bankruptcies. So trucking bankruptcies are really high, obviously. And this shows basically 2020 to 2025. And you can definitely see 2025 is breaking all of the other ones. So everything from logistics companies, trucking, except local. Remember, except local. Why not local? Because we're filling warehouses. So it might be if you were an over-the-road truck driver or you were pushing further and further out, it might be a beneficial aspect of your business to say, maybe what I should do is look more local, is basically look around and check my local warehouse, my local industrial parks, and start reaching out to them or start showing up to them. One of the things you could do with your truck, if I had a box truck, if it was me driving a box truck or a van, I would literally find an industrial park, have business cards, and just show up at a building that had maybe 2 or 3 dock doors. Not if they have 100 dock doors, maybe not. But have one that has 2 or 3 dock doors, back into the door, walk into the thing like I was picking up. And when they're like, "Hey, what are you here to pick up?" And I'd just be like, "Nothing. I'm here to drop off." "Well, what are you dropping off?" "My business card." "I'm dropping off my business card. If you guys, I'm from this area. I'm 30 minutes away. Here's my business card with my phone number. If you guys are having a problem moving something or you need something moved right away within the hour, and I'm in this area, or if you're looking at moving a bunch of local freight that for a local driver, I got a box truck here. I can do this many pallets. I'm from this area. What do I need to do to get set up? Right? How can I get set up to be on your call list?" Now, understand, and I'm going to explain this. I'm going to do shows on this, and we're going to talk about this. Understand there are different aspects of shipping. When you show up at a customer, they might not be the one handling the shipping aspect of it. They might have a 3PL, a 4PL, some type of software that they use through their 3PL. So you have to get on their list. You have to get on their supplier list. So that might be going through a 3PL so that you can bid on their freight. Okay. Now understand that that software is all different. It's not always a broker that basically is taking money off the top. Sometimes it's a system that, they charge for the software. And so rather than that shipping manager having to send emails out and to 5 different carriers, they use this software that it sends out the emails to 100 carriers. Every carrier bids on the product, on the shipping lane. And then after that, the 3PL does all the invoicing and double checks. So I have a customer I work with that. So they send me out a bid. They tell me what we're shipping, where it's going, where it's picking up. I put my bid number in, I put my price in, I click submit. Okay. If I win it, I get something, saying accepted, and then they send me the bill of lading, and we make it happen. I start to dispatch the truck, whatever it is. If I don't, it just says your offer was declined. Okay, I lost that one. But when it comes down to after I've bid it and we've done the run, let's say I bidded it for $10,000. If I submit for $11,000, it's going to get kicked back. And they're going to basically say, hey, why does this bid not match? You bidded this much. Why does it not match? And I might say, well, we had detention or we had a layover or something like that. This was approved by Joe Schmo. And I'll put in the notes, layover approved by Joe Schmo. Now, I do open deck and over-dimensional freight, so that might be higher numbers than you're used to. But it's reasonable numbers for us. And that's something I'm going to talk about also. We're going to go over-dimensional freight. I'm going to show examples of it. I'm going to show pictures of it, things like that. But this is kind of the aspect of the industry also. So now that shipping manager might be dealing with 100 loads a day. He's not going to remember what I bid it, but this is where the software comes in. And a lot of companies are going with things like this to basically make sure that there's not chargebacks, right? They're not being charged for things that they don't remember. That they don't remember they don't remember that, and it's like, hey, wait a minute, I have to make a battery here, and I thought I had one. So that's an aspect that we definitely do. Oh, I do have one. Hang on a second. All right, so this is the other thing I do. Sometimes I play video games because it makes just one of the things I do. Let's make a battery. Boom, 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 boom. All right, so now we've gone over some of the bankruptcies. Obviously, local trucking without storage, other transportation, local trucking with storage. Local trucking with storage is at the bottom. They're doing the least amount of bankruptcies, right? And this is what I'm trying to say. If you're watching this show or you're watching the replay, this is what I'm trying to explain to you. Local trucking without storage, meaning you're just a local driver without storage, you're still up here with bankruptcies. With storage, you're not, right? So if you're a trucking company that has a warehouse, you're not going because you're offsetting fees that you might not be making on the trucking right now with storage, right? So these local trucking with storage might need help, right? Although they have their own trucks, they also have their own storage. They might only have 10 trucks, and now they need 11. Now you can be the 11 if you're a box truck or a tractor trailer, whatever. You can be the 11, but you got to be proactive. You've got to seek that out, right? So if you see a storage company that has trucks, go there and basically say, hey, I might not be your first choice. I might not, I might be your last choice, but I just want to be a choice. I want to be an option for you. To be able to, if you need an extra truck, I'm in this area, right? And at that point, you can go from there. So this is the stuff that I want to pass this info on. I want people to be aware of the numbers that are out there. And then we talk about the rates, spot rates. Hang on here. Tender rejections, got it. Market data. All right, ocean booking volumes. U.S. imports taken at the point of origin 5% down. U.S. held international immediate freeze on work visas. And these are just some of the news topics that I'll be covering in a different show. Like I said, this is kind of just a pilot episode I wanted to talk about. I wanted to kind of go over. Spot rates are going down for containers. So that also tells you kind of volumes are going down and things like that. So this basically tells you that you're going to be seeing a lot less trending. Actually, hang on. Let's pull that up. Let's pull it up. Let's take a look. MARIN traffic. Yep, take me there. Boom, boom. Got it. Yep, I agree. Map type. Let's go to satellite. Containers. We're gonna go to ship type. We're not going to enable all. We're going to go to container ships. All right. Let me move over here. These are your container ships. So what we're looking at right now is the real-time shipping of container ships all over the world, right? All these little green things right here are container ships that bring freight to and from the United States, to and from every country in the world. Here's leaving China. This is China sailing over here and going down through the Panama Canal, stopping off up here. Hang on, let me get here. And stopping off into the port of California, Long Beach, which is one of our main ports. Not a lot of ships. This at one time had like 110 ships, I think, in here during the COVID. These are at anchor, waiting to get in. These are obviously being offloaded at different ports, all these little green dots. So this is another way you can kind of tell if things are busy. If you see a lot of ships here in the port area, then that's a lot of ships waiting to be offloaded. That means freight volumes are up. That's a good thing. Also, you go over here. Obviously, there's no ships. Well, we do use rivers, so some of the stuff you're going to see, these little dots are river barges. But let's go over here. Let's go down here to Savannah, Georgia, if I can find it. Savannah, Georgia. So Savannah, Georgia is becoming another one of our main ports, our main things that we do. So that is, that is also a busy section of, perfect. Let me get over here. What's going on out here? I know. Let me go in here, and you can kind of see that we've got some ships here at the ports being offloaded in Savannah, but it's definitely not all that busy, which means we're not going to have a ton of freight volumes, right? We're just not going to have a ton of freight volume out there. So that is basically not good news for us in the trucking industry or the freight industry or brokerage. It's freight volumes are down because people aren't buying as much. And admit it or not, tariffs play a big role into that. Tariffs play a big role. In 2019, we saw a freight rate in June. It got to the point that we even had to bail the farmers out like $28 billion. So this is some of the stuff that, we need to be knowledgeable about. Like we need to if you're in logistics and you're in trucking and you just started your own business, your main focal point that you need to understand is you're not a truck driver anymore. You're not just a truck driver. You're a business owner. Now, you are driving the truck, but if you're just out there driving the truck and you're out there using the load boards just to pull freight, then you're still a truck driver. You're just a truck driver. And you're only being paid as a truck driver. Like when you look at the aspect of starting your own trucking business and getting your own numbers, getting that insurance. The insurance, it's not cheap, right? No matter what, even if you think it's fair, that's a better price. Like getting the best price, it's still not a cheap aspect of your industry. So when you get your truck, you get your authority, you get your insurance, you got your load boards, you're ready to rock and roll, and now you just think, okay, let's go. Let's go. I'm a business owner now. I'm out there to make money. Where's my freight? Some of the things you're going to want to think about is, who's your sales and marketing department? Well, right now, that's the load board. That's the freight broker that's doing that. That's what they're doing for you, okay? So that might be a trade-off right now. And I know a lot of truck drivers complain about it, and they say that, they're taking all the money and things like that. But if I were to ask you, who's your sales and marketing department? What's your answer? What are you going to say? Who's your maintenance department, right? Who's your safety department? These are all things that dispatching. These are all things that trucking companies need to grow, to expand. They play important roles. So when you're doing all of them, it becomes difficult, and driving the truck. But if you're just out there driving the truck, not having a TMS, not having a way to keep this data, not having any sales or marketing, not selling yourself better than the truck next to you, parked at the truck stop, then you're just a truck driver with a business. You're not a business owner yet. It's understanding everything that I've kind of gone over, or starting to learn more, or starting to soak in information and knowledge about the industry in which you just got entered into, that separates the good business owners from the bad. And this is what we're going to be. This is what I'm going to start bringing to the Log Rock channel. It's going to take some time to build because the channel has been fairly stagnant for a good amount of time, and that's fine. That's fine. But it's not anymore, because here we feel that we've got to not only sell insurance, but our goal should be to make you the best logistical business owner we possibly can. That's what I feel I need to do as an insurance agent. When I'm on the phone, when somebody calls in and they get me as selling them their insurance, Sage, I make sure that you leave there completely understanding all of the coverages that you need, and understand how they work and what they're for. And that way you don't just say, how much is it? And we do the same thing in trucking. What's the load pay? Well, don't you want to know about the load? No. What's it pay? Well, you should pretty much know about the load. Don't you want to know what the insurance is for? No. How much is it? That's a bad way to look at insurance. That's a bad way to look at business. It's the ones that say, okay, explain this to me. I'm not leaving here until I understand what this coverage is and things like that. So, like I said, I've been here a little bit now at Log Rock, and I feel that what I can also bring to the table to make this a better company and make you guys better at your business is my knowledge and expertise. And this is what I'm going to be bringing to the table here at Log Rock. And like I said, it's going to take some time to grow, but I'm going to be putting it out there. I'm going to be reaching out to other people. I'm going to be bringing on other content creators. And I'm going to be bringing in call-ins and stuff so you can ask questions. But like I said, I'm not sure exactly what days I'll be doing it, but as soon as I get a schedule and when I'm going to be doing it, I'll put that out there. It'll be consistent, so you guys will know, And normally I have a producer, but I guess he slept in. But he didn't know I was going to do this show. But we're going to have a good time with it, right? We're just going to have a good time, and by the time we're done, educate some people. And make your business better, and so that you can outcompete the guy next to you, because that's the way it goes. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and duck out of here. I appreciate your time. Share this out. Hit the like button if you're on the replay, and hit the bell so we can, like I said, it's going to be a learning experience. I'm going to bring a lot to the table. Even bringing you guys on. I've got people lined up, other drivers and stuff that I'm going to be bringing on and interviewing people, because there's stories that need to be heard. And this is going to be the place to hear them. That being said, I'm going to duck out of here. Sage out. I don't even have any music to duck out of here yet.